Hello everyone and welcome to finally a new Houdini tutorial, the beginner series, number 15. We'll do some velocity fields, vellum simulation and rendering with Redshift and Octane today, which is pretty cool. I'm excited. Before I start, I'm currently running a course bundle on Gumroad. So you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 courses for the price of 85 bucks instead of, I don't know, 360. So yeah, this will be, I think, permanently available. And yeah, the link will be down in the description. Okay, let's do this. Let's do some Houdini. Cool. We will start. Okay, first of all, you will start in this build window here. So you got your network view down here and your parameter view up here. And what I usually do, or I already got that as a preset here, I will rearrange my Houdini layout. You can just cross-click, basically remove those windows up here, drag that to here, and then click in your empty network and press P. And you can see no operator selected here on the top right corner. And let's just place a geometry container. Geo R&D TIMJ 001. And now you can see we've got the parameters here for the top level, for the OBJ level. And we basically got our floating parameter window, which is pretty cool, I think. What we can do, first of all, I want to place down the vellum geometry. So maybe we can start with vellum hair or some thicker ribbons, maybe something like that. And then I want to create a velocity field that we will use to influence our vellum simulation. Okay, cool. Then dive inside with double click, or you can also dive inside the geometry container. Wait, first, how to place a geometry container. You can press tab in the network view. You can press right click, or you can go here, add node. And then this little window pops up. But I think the fastest will be like the tab version or the right click version. So tab, and we want a geometry. Let's rename that again. Geo TIMJ, oh no, it was Geo R&D TIMJ 001. And what we want to do, we want to dive inside this geometry container. We can do that with double click. We can choose the I and the U key to dive inside or to dive one level up, or you can choose left alt and left arrow button and the right arrow button to dive inside or to jump a level up, or you can also click up here, for example, if you want to dive up again and dive inside the network view with double click. We need some geometry. So what I want to do, let's start with a simple grid. I think a simple grid is nice. This may be a little bit too big. So what I want to do is to like scale it down a little bit. Maybe until like, I don't know, 3:1 ratio. And we will use that as our geometrical input for the vellum simulation. But first, I want more. So what we can do is to remesh it. So let's place down a remesh node here. And we can use that as an input, for example. Let's just scale that a little bit down if you want a really high-res geometry. But for my taste, I want to go like with multiple not so high res geometries. So let's go longer, like, I don't know, 7:1. And I want to pipe up the iteration count here a little bit, so the remeshing is a little bit smoother. So that's smoothed out. That's cool. And now we can place, after that, we can place a node. You can, for example, select this. And then we press tab and you will type in copy, transform, and press shift enter. And the node will be automatically attached to the remesh node or under the remesh node. You can see here total number 2, but in the viewport we can only see 1. That's because we need to translate it. So that's the cool thing, translate it, and now you can type that up. And for example, we can rotate that a little bit per iteration. Okay, we've got our ribbons here. Another thing what I want to do, I want to do basically the same thing, but with lines. So I want to simulate also vellum hair. We can also do that. Let's place down a scatter node, a circle node. And what I want to do is to connect. So we will use that for one simulation and this one for the other simulation. You can dial up the divisions here maybe a little bit. And I don't know, maybe we will choose 420 scatter points. And what I want to do for each point, I want to scatter or I want to copy a line. So we will place down a copy to point node, copy to points, and pipe the scatter node into the right input, and we need geometry to copy on the left input, so line. And we have one geometry here, but what I want to do, I want to position it a bit differently. So go into the viewport, press enter to get your handles. Or just click on the little show handle or show the gimbal icon here, and then you can move it. And with control pressed, you will move in snapping degrees here, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's go for something like that. And I want to match size the line here, so it's in the middle and it will get copied to the middle. So we got our match size, we got our lines here. Let's just decrease maybe our uniformal scale from our circle. And what I also want to do, I want to randomize the scale of our lines here being copied. That's a cool thing. We can use a lot of nodes here. You can go, for example, for Vex. You can code that in. But for example, a few presets here. You can do it with something like that, with an attribute wrangle. Or you can also go for an attribute randomize. And we will not choose CD. CD is the default value for color. We'll use P scale. So this is basically the same thing, and you can choose, for example, the custom ramp, and with a scale from, I don't know, 0.25 to 1. Dimensions is 1. It's basically a simple float value. And under the option tab, you can play around with the global seed. After that, what I want to do, I want to resample our lines here. And maybe we can do the lines first and then play with the ribbons. We resampled that, which is already pretty okayish, but I want a little bit of a higher resolution. So I will type in here length 0.025, which I think is pretty cool. Then we need the curve U attribute. So just check mark that one, and another node what I want to place is our null, and I will rename that into outlines. The curve U attribute is an attribute sitting on our points. We can go on our node, hover over, press the little node info button, and then click on a curve U, and it will automatically create a visualizer down here. So right click on here, on the little edit pencil, and with that we can change that. For example, I like to change that visualizer from blue to white to red, and those are basically just the values. So from 0 to 0.5 to 1. And when you click on your geometry spreadsheet here, you can also see the values here. So we got a new attribute sitting on our points called curve U, with a value from 1 all the way down to 0. And the cool thing is we can then use that later for shading, for example. Okay. Then we've got our little setup here. Let's play again with the distribution. I want 0.5, for example. And the cool thing is you can then procedurally, for example, manipulate this radius of the circle. So you can go a little bit wider, you can go a little bit thinner, etc. Now we need a velocity field. So I want to go in viewport, set view, maybe the right one. You can also do that with 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is the UV view for UVs. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and control 1, 2, 3, 4 will split, for example, the viewport, which is also pretty handy if you need, for example, a top view and a right view for modeling or for camera work, etc. Okay, let's go into the right viewport. If you press again, for example, 4, you will switch between left and right. And what I want to do, I want to place down draw curve. And let's go to projection, and I want the YZ plane as a projection. And with the E key clicked, we can template our lines. And what I want to do, I want to simply go here in our scene view, get the handle here, and now we will get this little drawing tool, and now we can be really artistic. So let's try something out. Oh my god. So we are starting here, going here, making a circlish spiral thing here, I don't know, going back here and a full circle around 2 times, and then we will do that. Oh my god, it's so beautiful. It's a face. It's a face. The eye, the other eye, the mouth, and basically the head. Perfect. Okay, let's throw a resample down here after the draw curve. And what I want to do, I want to output a subdivision curve, and I want to resample that just like a little bit. So not too fancy, but I think a fair amount is good. And I want to smooth. With a smooth node, I want to smooth the thing out, so it's a little bit prettier. A little bit. my drawing, of course, was totally superior. Not. And what I want to do, I want to displace that also in 3-dimensional space. So currently, it's basically sitting on a plane, so in 2-dimensional space, but I want to displace it. We can do that with an attribute, maybe with a noise. Attribute noise. Let's place that down. And I want vector being effect P. This is the position. Then for the range values, I want 0 centered. And let's decrease the amplitude here, maybe a little bit. Also, we can play here with the element size. For example, I want to go a little bit larger than 1, like 1.27. Cool, nice. And after that, what I want to do, I want to place down a bend, and I want to basically twist the whole thing. So let's go again in our right or left viewport, set capture region, click that button, and you will get this little handle here. And now we basically can place our bounding box. So from here to here, that sounds good, looks good. I want to disable the bend. Of course, you can also use the bend, for example, if you want. You can get some really cool stuff with that. But I want to twist, and I want to twist that whole thing. I don't know, 400 degrees. Let's go for 720. Oh, that's maybe 666. The devil is in the house. Maybe we can taper it a little bit so we can push it a little bit. I think that's nice. And after that, I want to again place an attribute noise with a little bit smaller element size, and also I want to create a second resample here. And what I also want to do, I want to smooth it out a little. So now we got those curves. The cool thing is, with those curves, we can basically create a velocity volume. But first of all, we will need a bounding box. Then we will need to create a density volume out of that bounding box and feed that curves into a node that will create our velocities. So what I want to do is to get our outlines here and attach a bound node to that thing. And what I want to do, I want to click right side on the lower padding and go on copy parameter, and now right click again and then paste relative reference, paste relative reference, paste again. So now those 5 channels are referenced to the first channel here, and we can click, for example, 2, and we will get on each axis, we will get a padding of 2, which is pretty cool. So we got our lines here, we got a padding around it. Maybe we can also go a little bit smaller. I don't know. I think 1 should be fine. This will be our bounding box for our volume. So what I want to do after that, I want to place a VDB from polygons. And with that VDB from polygons, let's toggle on our density, because we will need basically a density volume for that. So what we did, we created our density volume with a voxel size of 0.1. We can go a little bit higher with the resolution. For example, 0.01 or 0.025 to give that volume a fair amount of resolution. So now we want to combine those two together, which is a pretty cool node with, oh my god, volume velocity from curves. The volume velocity from curves, and it needs the curves and the first input, and into the third input there goes our volume. And now you can see that, and you will think, okay, cool, and what can I do with that? Now the cool thing is we can first of all go here a little bit lower with the resolution. And now the cool thing is we can visualize our volume. What we can do, we could use a volume slice. Let's get a volume slice. And we will basically slice through that volume. Then we can use a scatter node, or you can use that as an input directly, and a volume trail. Get the points in here, get the volume in here. And now you can see what our volume is basically doing. So we can visualize our volume here, how the velocities will affect later our vellum simulation. Another cool thing is just scatter the points in here. So you got like a 3-dimensional scattering thing going on. Let's connect that again. And now you got here the visualization of the volume, which is pretty cool. And now we can call that. Let's place a null out val or out val advect. So this will be our advection volume. And down here you could place another null, and you can press C on your keyboard, get another color, out val, and then this for a visualization tag. So you can always come back into here. You can play with here, for example, with our offset of the noise. And you can see how that will affect the volume, or you can just maybe disable the twist and or disable the node completely and see how that will affect your node, or basically your volume velocity from curves. What you also can do, you can, for example, just pipe those in here. Then you can really directly see how that, again, volume slice, how that will affect how your velocities will look. This is also pretty cool to render out, but this is basically my drawing. And yeah, you can visualize that. But this is, for example, like the 3D displaced thing. Cool. So now we have that, and we can go further. So under the outlines, what I want to do is to place down a vellum hair. Vellum configure hair. We got that. Cool. We can visualize the thickness a little bit. That should be all right. We will leave, just for the sake of a tutorial, just everything on the default parameters. That should be fine. And after the vellum hair, we can place down a vellum solver. When we place this solver and we will press play here, you can see the hair will fall down. You can also, wait, let me visualize that, place a ground plane or something to collide with. So let's get a sphere. Let's disable the ground plane here again. Let's go for polygon, move that sphere -1 down. And you can simulate it, and you can see the hair will collide with our beautiful sphere. You can, of course, also use that to create, I don't know, maybe a haircut or something else. But you basically get the idea. can also use colliders. But what we want to do, we want to go a little bit more abstract, of course. And the first thing what I want to do is under the, let me look at the time, easy. Under the simulation, under the forces tab, we will disable the gravity and disable the wind. So when we play now our simulation, you can see nothing will happen. Now what I want to do, or what you should do too, is to dive into the development solver. And on the force output, we want to place, for example, a pop wind. So let me demonstrate something first before we will get into the velocity import stuff. Pop wind, amplitude on 1, and you can already see some magic going on here, which is pretty cool, I think. So you could go and render that out. You will also have your curve view attribute on here, so you could shade it nicely, I think, which is also pretty cool. I want to keep that pop wind, but on a lower level. So for example, an amplitude of 0.01. So let's see again. So you can see the pop wind will only slightly affect our simulated strings or hair here. And what I want to do, I want to import now our Advection field into our Vellum solver. And the cool thing is that's pretty easy. We'll dive inside again and get a pop advect by volumes. Pipe that into here, and we need our outval advect. So what you can do, you can, for example, go out here, press Ctrl C, sublevel Ctrl V, pipe that in there. Or what you also can do, you can press Shift W, and this little node tree will pop up here. And you can drag and drop our null node, which is connected to our volume velocity from curves. You can drag and drop that in here. And what we want to do, we want to update the velocity and advection method trace. Let's simulate that and see how that will look. So you can see lines will get basically advected. The cool thing is you can also do that with, grain, you can do that with glove, what we will also do later. So that is pretty cool. Speaking of cloth, we can do that basically directly. But first of all, I want to get this a little bit more cooler. So what I want to do, I want more. 420, let's go 840. So a little bit more hair to simulate here. I think let's go back to, yeah, I think wider is not that bad. Let's go to, I don't know, 2.5. Let's go 666. Get rid of the seed. I think the beginning is pretty cool. So what you could do, you could sweep the whole thing with a round tube. This looks already not that shabby. Of course you can then let it simulate further. The top view is pretty cool. Always be sure to view like different views. And what I want to do, I want to basically copy our Vellum solver. And we got also our show force. Okay. We got also our fluff here. And let's see how, okay, the cloth is way too big. So let's get a match size. And press scale to fit. And we will go for a vellum configure cloth now. Type that in here. And the cool thing is our out velocity advect is already inserted. And we can see how that will influence basically our cloth, which is pretty cool. So you will get some really nice organic shapes. What you also can do, you can go for update force. So that, whoops, that was too. And what I want to do, let's rotate the whole thing more. I think that's a good first start. What we also can do, why not just rotate our whole thingy? $90, and let's see how that will impact our simulation. Let's go for 180 degrees. I think this looks pretty cool with those 3 layers here. Okay, after that, let's do some more. So we got currently 7. Let's go for more. 11, or like double it and give it to the next person. Let's go to like 14 and simulate that like a few frames. And I want to get rid of the huge repetitive rotation. One degree on every copy should be fine. So we get a really cool, smooth layering here going on. Pretty cool. I like that. Let's keep it like that. I want to place a vellum post-process node on that. And with the vellum post-process node, we will apply a loop subdivision, a space blur of 1.05 to just blur a little bit the things a little bit out. And the cool thing is we can also extrude that. Let's go for a thickness scale of, I don't know, 0.5. I think that should be fine. And yeah, we got our vellum simulated cloth. The same thing we can do for, let's resim our hair here. The cool thing is what you also can do that with grains, or you can pipe that into a pop simulation and do it with particles. I like that frame here, especially like this side. It's cool. Okay, let's go for a single polygon, or let's choose like a grid here. So we got a little cute end cap here. The cool thing is we can also apply a scale. So for example, a hill scale. Let's go not that drastic here. Maybe 0.35, 0.35. And what I want to do is, the cool thing is we also got our curve view attribute. But what I want to do, I want to basically resample the hair here again to give it a little bit more resolution to work with. So 0.01 should be fine. And this will be our, let's go for division curves, and I want to smooth it a little bit out. And the radius 0.85 should be fine with the intersections. Looking good to me. Cool. Now we need to render that shit out. We can basically place a null. What I want to do is to place a null, and let's call that out curves. Whoops. Out curves, and let's place a time shift. So we will basically freeze one frame, in my case frame 14. And on the other hand, on the cloth parameter, I don't know what frame was good, not that one. I think it was frame 40, something like that. Yeah, 40. That looks cool. I like that. It's simple, but it's minimalistic, but it's cool. And let's just call it out. I don't know. Stuff. Wow, so creative. Okay. After that, we need cameras and a network, a render engine, of course. I think the first thing what we will do is Redshift, and after that we'll use Octane for that. So for the Redshift users out there, we will place first of all a light dome. Let's call this RS dome 001. And what I want to do, I want to choose an HDR. Let's go for Pro Metal. Just a simple one. We got our dome light, cool. Then we need a camera. We can also use that then as our Octane camera, so RS cam. RS cam. Let's go for an R&D cam. So I usually type that in because I know, okay, I can move that cam. It's not like a render out cam. It's more like a R&D camera for look development, etc. 0.01. Then to view, let's go full HD because I also need a thumbnail. 110 millimeters, so a little bit longer focal length here. On the optical side, let's go for use this. Let's go for no, not paste relative reference. Let's copy this parameter. I think you don't need to do it, but I do it anyways. Bokeh is on. Let's go for an image file. Textures. Oh. Bokeh image. Let's go for number 11. Sum to white is fine. Okay. That should be all good. Then we need a material network. RSNet. And we will also need a render network. So let's place down a ROP.net and call this RS out. And I will do that from scratch for the Octane users, or I use, for example, both. After that, so we will do a style frame or 2 style frames with Redshift. And then again, the same with Octane. Cool. Now we got our material network and our ROP network. We need to place a material. let's place a material node. Let's go RS mat RD. It's a RD material, for example. And let's copy that and just paste it also on here. And we need to create a material in here. So RS material builder. So we will place that down. In that Redshift material builder, we will build up our material that we will then link to our geometry. So RS mat, oh my god, RS mat. Let's just go for strings. And let's delete the standard material and pipe the standard material back in. It's like the default cube in Blender. And let's link that. We can use again our Shift W here, scroll down, and here's our RS mat, and just drag and drop that in here, and again, drop it here. So we got both materials linked for our ribbons and our strings. Now, let's dive into the camera and see it's not in a good position. Okay, let's go for an overview position for the first framing. So like a more of a wider shot, and we can also use like 35mm here for a little bit wider perspective. I think that will look cool. And what I also want to do, I want to place down our Redshift network. So RS out 001. Then, whoops. Then we will need to link our camera. So get the camera here, accept. This should be fully fine. Advanced, let's go. That GI is already on. Output is on. Globals, aces. Okay, cool. So those are basically the default or our default settings. And now we can go, when you installed Redshift, on the Redshift tab and press render view. And we are in the render view and it started and it's rendering. Cool. So you can see we have our first image here, which looks meh. I don't like it. No, it's okay. First of all, what I want to do, I want to go on the RS dome and I want to detoggle the background here so we get a black background. We only want monochrome. We don't need color. Then the next thing is what I want to do. I want to maybe rotate it. Let's rotate it and see how. Yeah, that's way better here. Something like that. Side lid, back lid, side light, rim light. That's cool. Then also let's go for Sam. And let's play with our depth of field. Of course, you can go insane with the depth of field here. So you can play with values that every cinematographer and photographer wish the lens would have that kind of lens speed. So I don't know, an aperture of 0.01. So let's go for a more realistic one, for example 0.4 or a 0.4, a 1.4 or 1.8 aperture. So you can see we will have a little bit depth of field in the background, but of course CGI or this kind of design also here does want to get like toggled, and you can get abstract and you can try values like 0.2. It looks cool. So why not use it? Yeah, so let's go back to 0.4 or 1.4 or 1.8, etc. That's fully up to you. What I also want to do, I want to get an exposure value up So we will overexpose our HDR by one stop, and the image will get a little bit brighter. I think everybody remembers that we placed a curve view value on here, and we can use that curve view value in our shader. So let's dive in our shader here and place down an R as color data and type in here curve view. After that, what I want to do is to place down a ramp. The R is ramp, connect those two, and pipe that into the base color. And what I want to do, I want to refresh our Redshift window here. And now, for example, let's get a black to orange, and I want to increase the metalness, for example, here on the shader. And I want to get a sheen of 1 with a color of slightly bluish tone. Let's go for 2.5. Oh no, not sheen. Let's go for code value. And the cool thing is we can now play basically with that ramp. So we can choose reset here, and we can recolor or import our float values from our curve view here, curve view right here, from the resample node to then reshade or recolor certain properties or material parameters to our likeness. So the cool thing is we can also remap the whole thing. So for example, sand, we can get a red in here or some kind of orange. Let's go a little bit more desaturated. And I want to start with a white here and go back to white. And the cool thing is we can drag that out. We can drag it in here. And we can basically make a pretty harsh transition now from, for example, from white to this golden bronze tone back to white. And I think that's pretty cool. And for example, let's go for another camera, 110 millimeters. Let's change it up here. So this will be like more of a close-up, like a detail shot. Let's zoom out. Let's get that into a cool perspective, and let's could be better. Let's refocus here. And what I want to do, I want to turn the lights 180 degrees. Nope. So it's 180 degrees. And now we can play with the light here again and, for example, get something out like this. The cool thing is we can do the same thing with our ribbons here. But what we need to do, get that first, is to place down a VOP here, or you can go, yeah, let's go with a distance from geometry. So let's go not the bounding box way, a distance from geometry here. Oh no, wait, we want the distance along geometry. Type that in here, and start points, let's select those start points here, press enter, and click on the little visualizer here. And now you can see we basically got also a value from our distance along curve from, I think, 0 to 7, because our grid is 7 long. And what we can use, you can use a fit node. You can download that on my Gumroad. Let's fit that between 0 and 1. Distance is now between 0 and 1. And you can see again, we've got red to blue, and it's called dist. So we need to be aware of that. We can not call our curve view attribute. We cannot bind that in or import that. We need now our distance attribute. So let's resimulate that. We got our distance attribute now on our surface, so we can also use that then for shading. Let's simulate that quickly, our likeness. And now what I want to do, for example, copy the parameter, the materials one will be our material for the strings, and this one will be for our ribbons. Let's just dive inside the camera here, get the render view again started. And what I want to do, I want to quickly reset the ramp here. Let's go sand, I like that. For example, let's go for a kind of glass material, and let's pipe that into refraction color. And what I want to do, I want to desaturate that a little bit. Let's go for an orange tone, saturate it heavily, and go for like a kind of bluish tone here. And now you can get, for example, a shot like this. It's pretty minimal. Of course, you can get up close. Let's go up close. I really like those kind of actions here. And the glass shader is pretty rough. So let's dial it down. For example, to something like that. Of course, what you can do, you can subdivide it even more, because now the resolution is it's okay, but it's like not that great. And yeah, now you can play with different camera angles. Let's get it here. Don't want that corner in there. And what I want to do, I want to reset the light, and you will get, for example, something like that. Or you can place a product in there, or just use that as a style frame in your portfolio, and of course play a lot more with light, with composition. But yeah, the tutorial is just to be there to give you like a kick, like a little inspiration of how you can do that. So this is Redshift, and now let's go for Octane. So we will delete everything. Gone forever. Let's delete those, or let's just delete the material linking. Let's go for the strings here first, and let's place a camera again. Let's call that camera OC for Octane, camera R&D 001. And what I want to do again, let's go for this kind of resolution is fine. Let's go for 110 focal length. And let's get roughly the same frame. I know that was 35 millimeters in the beginning, so let's of course also do that. Then we will need a material network again, and we will also place our Octane render in there. So OC matte, I usually color that in greenish. I don't know why I connect the color green to Octane. And then we need a ROP network. And this will be OC out, so Octane out. Dive inside and let's place down an Octane output. So OC out 001. And what I want to do on the camera, I want to press right click, copy parameter, and then on the IPR on our basically progressive render engine, press right click and then paste relative reference. And let's choose our camera, and when you middle mouse button click on the parameter, you can see those are now linked to, which is pretty cool. Okay, that should be fine. And let's go for an Octane render target. This is basically our renderer. So Octane render target 001. You can have multiple of those. I usually color them in black. Let's go back, and we need to link that also. So again, press, for example, Shift W, and then get the Octane render target into the render target here. And what I want to do is to get the kernel to path tracing, the camera to universal, and the daylight, the environment to texture. Camera texture environment, we can also use that, for example, but let's not use that for now. We will go for a fin lens. You can also play with orthographic or fisheye, for example, etc. And the cool thing is you can really dial in here a lot of things. Max samples, let's go for 4,000, roughly 4,000 samples. Sampling, adaptive sampling, and light AI light. You can watch Octane tutorials from Silverwing VFX on YouTube. It's for Cinema 4D, but you can adapt them to, for example, Houdini, and I highly recommend this channel. And then, for example, an Octane material builder. OC or R&D. Oh, and we need our texture environment. Let's get again a texture environment here and start our IPR on Octane. Cool. So yeah, that's Octane. You can rotate it here, for example. So let's also do that. Let's give it a little bit more power. What I usually do, right click, allow editing of contents, and then dive in here and then just get some custom stuff in here, for example, like desaturation of the environment texture. So you can place a color a tool color correction down here, for example, or custom bokeh images, etc. So I usually dive in there and get some parameters to do what I want them to do, or what they should do. Okay, cool. So we got our Octane setup. Then what we need a material, right? Let's dive inside a material container here and place down also a standard material from Octane. Go out, let's relink that, same shit as with Redshift. And let's restart our Octane here. And now you can see we did basically the same thing. Let's just copy this path and paste it to here. We got roughly the same render. Now we need our attributes, and with Octane it's a little bit different. So let's select our container here and press on plus object parameters. So this will add an object parameter window here, and we will go on attribute. And what I want to do, I want to basically transfer the Octane attributes from the curfew attribute to Octane. and I want to get this is a float attribute. So for example, color would be a vector attribute. Maybe there will be hopefully automatic attribute extraction soon in Octane, I don't know. But we want curve view. Let's dive inside here, let's dive inside here. And what I want to do is to get a gradient. So it's not called ramp in Octane, it's called gradient. And I want a float vertex attribute. And type in here curve view. Pipe that into here, pipe that into the base color. Let's start our Octane here, and you see we can basically do the same thing. Let's go for also a metal material, because I did that with Redshift 2. Type that into the specular color and up maybe the roughness a little bit, and you can also play with, for example, I really like black to orange. Let's go for flip that also. Also pretty. Can also make basically the same as we did with shift. You can then you can move the gradient back and forth. Yeah. Another thing would be, let's go for a specular material. So material specular is basically a glass material or a refractive material, and you can also use that on, for example, the transmission. And you got yourself colored glass, for example. Oh my god. That's way too vibrant. Way too vivid. And yeah, you can of course also play with that. Play with the presets here. I really like the sand preset because it got a nice transition, and it's pretty muted, I think. Maybe something like that for the thumbnail, I don't know. And of course you can also brighten things a little bit up, because that's a little bit dark. I think that should be easy. And yeah, play with that. You can also go for the immature and expose here. The exposure, and dial it up. Okay, then let's go for our ribbons. Basically the same. But let's start the IPR again. And we can see shit. It's cool. But first of all, let's get this dist. And we also need to extract the dist attribute now. That thing will work. And we can see shit, probably because of the light. Let's go for a roughly same composition. And yeah, now you can see it. Well, maybe we need to get like a little bit more resolution onto here, because I think that does not look good. Go for depth of field and subdivide the whole thing here again with an open subdiv loop. So this will subdivide the overall geometry again, and let's play some normals for just in case. And restart our little Octane. Yeah, that looks way better. Our little Octane window here. And now you can basically play around again with different maps. You can, oh, that's cool. With different maps, you can of course use other render engines like V-Ray, Karma, RenderMan, I think, etc. But yeah, you get the idea. You can use manual lighting, which I also really like to do, to manually light the scene. Tutorial on that too. But yes, I think that's it for that kind of tutorial for today. And yeah, I will see you on my Patreon. I will see you in the course, which are on Gumroad Reduced. I will see you on Instagram, etc. So you can write me there. You can write some comments, leave some comments down below. And I will see you definitely in the next video. And I will hope you have a great time with this tutorial, and have a nice day.